Alright guys, we're back. It's been a long time and I've got some explaining to do. So, we started this project about 3 years ago to resurrect a 1985 BMW 318i and had all the good intentions of getting it done, getting it running, getting it back on the road within about 6 months. And that just didn't happen. So the motor looks a little different than it did the last time I did an update, and that was when we were doing the cylinder head. So what happened? What set this project off track, and why are we back, and what are we doing? So, like I said, 3 years ago we started building this 318i. We resurrected it, or uncovered it from a gentleman that was in a bad situation and he had to get rid of all his BMW stuff. He had a bunch of 2002 stuff and he had a bunch of E30 stuff. And so his entire house was full of BMW parts, his yard, everything, and he wanted to sell it all as one. And I wasn't interested in purchasing the 2002 parts just for the simple sheer cost of what he wanted for them. So it just happened that there was a gentleman that was looking for 2002 parts and I was interested in the E30 parts, and we made a deal. And I loaded truckload after truckload after trailer load from this property and started sorting the parts and going through it, and it looked like we had enough pieces to make a good engine. So we started out, we did the short block assembly. There's a video on that. Link will be in the description below. And then we did the cylinder head assembly, which was great. Then we ran into a little snag where one of the cranks that was mixed in with the 318 stuff was actually a 2-liter E21 crank. So we had to take the crank back out, remeasure all the bearings. Everything was good. We reassembled the bottom end and we started putting it together, and that's where the problem happened. So started assembling the engine, got the cylinder head on, got the timing chain on, started bolting on all of the accessories, manifolds, etc. And I guess when I was going through checking the cylinder head, and when the machine shop had it, they didn't look at the exhaust studs, and this exhaust manifold is just on here with one nut, maybe two. I think just one. And if you can see here, we got some paper in there, and it turns out that this stud here was broken off flush with the block, or with the cylinder head, sorry. And so I'd already bolted the head on, already torqued the head down, so I didn't want to have to take the head off to take it back to the machine shop. And so I successfully drilled out studs many times before. I didn't think it was going to be that big a deal. Got a good pilot hole down it. Started extracting the stud. You can't use much heat because it's aluminum, and don't want to warp it. And I got the stud about 90% of the way out. And then the sound you never want to hear, the last part of the stud coming out must have expanded slightly as I was extracting it, and it cracked the head. So we got a crack here across the exhaust stud, And unfortunately, that's what derailed the progress on this motor. At that point, through frustration, you just worked all this time to get this all back together, and something like that happens. It's definitely demoralizing. You feel like an idiot that you did it, but it happened. So I went from there, and my intentions was to get a cylinder head, another one off to the machine shop, make sure they check everything this time, get the valves done, and get it assembled, get it on, and keep moving forward on the project. And then a little thing called racing got in the way, and started doing a lot of racing, and this project kind of went on the back burner. So with all the COVID stuff happening, yes, I said the bad 5-letter word, but with COVID happening, I had a couple projects I wanted to work on, this being one of them. However, I pushed a 1997 GTI VR6 ahead of it because I needed a commuter car, and so I built a motor for that and got it running and driving, and it's on the road now. So that brings us back to the E30. So I want you guys to keep me accountable and keep me moving forward on this project. And so I'll show you where we're at now. So you can see the upper timing cover is off. That's because I needed it to send to the machine shop to when they refinish the cylinder head, the new one. I always bolt those on and make sure they're exact same. So that's off. This stuff, the intake, and I was just placing things, getting it all ready to go so we can pull the exhaust manifolds off. The valve cover is unbolted. So basically what we have to do from here is I'll show you what we got. So although this motor hasn't run yet, got a new head gasket, got all new head bolts, got all new valve seals, and sorry, I should have moved this. Should have moved this before I started camera, but we got our new cylinder head. So we got a cylinder head. You can see there's 4 exhaust studs missing, so those are taken care of. Valves are all done, guides are done. We're missing one coolant bolt there, stud, so we'll get that sorted out. There's our timing cover there on the front, all machined down to the same as the cylinder head, and so we're ready to go. So what we need to do is we need to take off the intake manifold, exhaust manifold, get that stuff out of the way. We'll pull the head bolts, pull this head off, and then we'll I'll go ahead and pull all the valves out of here, or sorry, pull all the cam out, pull all the rockers out, rocker shafts, and get this head all reassembled. And we might do a time lapse on that. And then in the next episode, we'll come back, we'll bolt the cylinder head on, and we'll keep moving forward on this motor. So there's an update, 3 years in the making, and the car is still sitting in the back of the shop, waiting for, turned into a shelf, waiting for its heart to go in here. But I think in the next couple months we'll be able to move forward on this and get this motor in the car. Since then I've also started building a 1997 BMW 318 Ti that is going to be a race car. So hopefully we'll bring that on the channel. But yeah, I'll bring you back once we. I'll put you on time lapse and we'll pull the cylinder head. Alright, so should have seen a little time lapse in there, and now we're at the point. Head bolts are out, intake's off, exhaust off, timing chain's off, and we're ready to lift the head off. So let's get a spot on the table here. We're going to have to swap all the rocker shafts, springs, rocker arms, springs, shafts, plates. We'll swap over the valve springs, retainers, and keepers, but we'll put in new valve seals. So we should be able to just lift it off here. And there we go. So there we go. There's our head gasket. Definitely probably could reuse this. It's not a multi-layer gasket. It's never been run. But we've got another one, so no sense going this far and trying to chintz out on a head gasket that was probably less than 20 bucks. So we'll pull off the head gasket here. We might not be able to get it off without cracking it anyways, because I put some sealant underneath. And this sealant that's on here, this is Volkswagen timing cover sealant. Since this video, this stuff is seals incredibly well, but it's also very expensive. So what we'll use, putting it back together is likely Honda Bond. I've switched to using Honda Bond on almost everything now. This stuff is incredible, and for the price, you can't go wrong. So. There we go. Keep any of that sealant from going down in the oil pan. So just stuck here, just on the corner. I don't care about the gasket. I just don't want the sealant to go down in the crankcase. So. Try and use as little as possible, but there we go. So there we go, head gasket off. Cylinders are still looking really nice. You know, I mean, we could have reused that gasket, but there's no point. So this was I think this was a Victor Reinz gasket, which the M20s, M20 engines, there's issues with the coolant jackets on the Victor Reinz. So So the new gasket that I got is an L-ring. So, and you can see here, it did tear a bit of the bottom of the gasket off. So, yeah, we'll put the new gasket on, and so what I'll do is I might do a time lapse of assembling the cylinder head, but I already have the video, the full video assembling it the first time. So if I don't do a time lapse, I'll bring you back for the next episode. We'll install the cylinder head, and then we'll start putting on the manifolds, the distributor, all the coolant stuff. We've got some of the coolant pipes on here, but we'll put all the rest of the coolant hoses on, and we'll get this thing ready to go. We'll get the belts on, we'll get it ready to go into the car, and the transmission's already in the car. So what we'll have to do is we'll pull the engine off the stand, we will suspend it on the engine hoist, we'll get the rear main seal on, and the rear main seal flange, and then we'll put the clutch on. I've got a new clutch, new flywheel. We'll put all that in, and then we'll be ready. We've got a couple other things, dipstick tube, and a few other pieces here, and then we'll get ready to put it on the in the car. So, thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking with me for 3 years as we battle through life, trying to finish projects. But we'll get this thing in the car, get it running, and we'll make some noise before summer so we can drive it around and enjoy it. We're going to have some other videos on the car once we get the engine in, because the front suspension's got to get freshened up. We got to go through the brakes, and that's basically it. The rest of the interior is all together, so we'll get the rest of the drivetrain in, do the suspension, and we'll get it on the road, and then we'll start looking at upgrades. The car is destined for collector plates, so we can't. That's the reason why I'm putting the M10 back in, because I could put an M44 or M42 to keep it a 4-cylinder, or we could just do an M50 or an M20 or whatever, but to keep it under collector plates where I live in British Columbia, it has to have the original engine. So upgrades, we'll look at doing like metal Euro bumpers, maybe lowering it a bit, and putting some different wheels on it. But other than that, it will be bone stock. It does have a houndstooth sport interior in it, which is super cool, and it has pop-out windows. Some of the early options in 85 and 84. So it does have a sunroof, no tin top. But yeah, so that gives you a bit of the roadmap. But there we go. We're on the road to making it go on the road. All right, till next time, guys. Thanks.